Hello everyone, welcome to an extra Starships 2.0 tutorial. This time I'm going to be discussing something that's come up in the Discord a couple of times, and it's with regard to modification prerequisites. So I'm aiming to hopefully clear that up with this extra video. So the first thing I need to do is I need to correct a mistake I made in my modifications video. You cannot install a modification onto a ship unless you already have its prerequisite installed. So the example I gave in the modifications tutorial was the backup hyperdrive. And the backup hyperdrive has the prerequisite of you having a hyperdrive slot modification installed. So to install the backup hyperdrive slot onto your ship, you need to already have the hyperdrive slot modification installed. And the problem that's been coming up, I guess, is some people are wondering, like, well, do these things take extra slots, or do they come, in addition to, or do they get melded together, or does like one replace the other? And the answer is, no. Each mod takes up its own separate slots. So if we look at the reactors here, we've got a separate slot for reactors marked 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on the Allegiance battlecruiser, and the same thing for like the data cores. This is an issue that's been coming up in particular with these universal mods that give you stat buffs. So to install Mark 1 doesn't have a prerequisite, you just install it. Mark 2 requires that you have Mark 1 installed, so you need to install Mark 1 first, then you can install Mark 2. And then Mark 3 and Mark 4 and Mark 5. Now, things get a little weird when you remove a modification from earlier on in the tree, or if a modification gets damaged somehow. If your GM determines that, like, well, hey, your hyperdrive slot is borked now, like, well, then what happens? So if a modification loses access to its prerequisite, either by that prerequisite just not being there anymore, or by it being rendered non-functional, that modification ceases to function, and all modifications that require it as a prerequisite also cease to function. Though to be fair, that isn't explicitly stated, I don't think, but I believe that's the intent. So, like, for example, if I took out reactor Mark 3, like, let's just say I removed it, and Mark 4 and 5 are still installed. Well, Mark 4 requires Mark 3 as a prerequisite, and Mark 3 is not here anymore. So Mark 4 is going to cease to function. And because Mark 4 is ceasing to function, Mark 5 can't function, because Mark 5 requires Mark 4 to be functional as a prerequisite. So hopefully that clears things up a little bit. Fingers crossed. I haven't forgotten about the cost tutorial. I am going to work on that. I just wanted to make sure that things were kind of stabilized a bit with regards to cost stuff, because there were a bunch of changes around the times that I was recording all of the videos beforehand. And I wanted to make sure that I understood the new changes, and that the new changes were going to be more or less set in stone before I committed the time to really talk about it. But most of the changes were with regards to, like, how do you make the process cheaper for yourself. Anyway, that's enough about that. So I hope this video was helpful, and I'll see you on the next one.